Xbox is changing. Are you ready for it? Just a reminder, if you take a look down at the description below, I have links for all sorts of Xbox gear. I've been talking a lot about the ultimate wired Xbox controller by 8BitDo. That's down there as well. You can buy it through Best Buy. If you want to get in on this new generation of Xbox cloud gaming, I also have some links for some Samsung TVs that support the Xbox Game Pass app that they're coming out with. I've taken a look at both the Series X and the Series S, how they've performed over the past year and a half, some things I like about and some things I don't like about them, some things that they can improve perhaps. So after having done that, I thought, hey, why not do the opposite? Instead of looking into the past, why not look into my crystal ball? Try to stare into the future a little bit and tell you guys what you can expect from Xbox in the next year. So let's start off with the juicy stuff, baby, the sexy stuff, what everyone wants to talk about. Specifically, how many sales are they going to get in this next year? I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Microsoft, a year from now, they're going to sell anywhere from 9.5 million to 12 million Xbox Series consoles. Is that crazy? I'm sure you're probably sitting there, 12 million consoles? What the heck? They've only sold about 16 million to date. So you're saying that in 1 year, they're going to sell just under their lifetime sales 2 years in? What's the deal? And if you take a look at the lifetime sales, obviously, PlayStation and Switch are ahead of Xbox. But the gap between PlayStation 5s and Xbox Series consoles is not as pronounced as you may think. And it's definitely a whole lot better than that whole thing that happened last generation, where PS4s outsold Xbox Ones by over 2 to 1. But going forward, starting from August 2021, there was also another big thing happening in the world of Xbox at that time. I'm talking about the 20th anniversary celebration of Xbox as a brand. And that's all that anyone was ever talking about it. They did a ton of press for that. They did a whole event for it. There was a lot of Xbox nostalgia, a lot of energy in the Xbox space. They were releasing all sorts of merch, new controllers, new headsets, ton of stuff. Will they be able to replicate that success from week 41 through week 61 of the console's life cycle in order to break that 10 million mark? Because, hey, they've already proven that over a period of 5-6 months, they can sell over 5 million consoles, I believe. So using that logic, it's not insane to think that, hey, if they keep that pace, they can sell well over 10 million consoles over a year. But how can they replicate that? How can they replicate the feeling of the Xbox 20th anniversary and all those game releases on Game Pass? How can they do it, man? Well, coming up, there are some key things happening for Xbox. Yes, we're finally going to get Redfall, we're finally going to get Starfield, Forza Motorsport 8 are all supposed to release in the first half of 2023. That's a pretty decent string of games. And that doesn't even include all the other stuff that's coming. Arc 2, Flintlock, I'm really excited for that game. So I can imagine, just from a game perspective, that they're going to get a lot of buzz similar to what they did in that period in 2021. Also, and this may just be the optimist in me talking, I have a feeling that the shortage, maybe it won't get better from a supply standpoint when it comes to the chips, when it comes to the copper that makes the chips and all that other stuff that goes into it. But I have a feeling that these companies are going to have a better handle on how to deal with that and get more units out into retailers. So in my gut, I feel like there's going to be more of these next-gen consoles out in the wild, more available, and therefore more people are going to buy them. And finally, at some point in 2023, it's very likely that Microsoft is going to close this deal to acquire Activision Blizzard. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand how big that is. Their entire library, their entire collection of IPs potentially coming over to Xbox Game Pass. That's gonna be big, baby. That's gonna do huge numbers. So in the EU, Xboxes are selling pretty well, but not nearly as well as PlayStation 5s. And in Japan, obviously, it's not even close. Xbox hasn't even broken 1 million over there. So how can Microsoft change that? How can they grow their international presence? And it's probably something that's not gonna reverse itself over a couple of years or over a couple of exclusive releases, or even something that's going to happen this generation. But I feel like the silver lining here is that the Xbox Series X and S in these markets are already doing better than the Xbox One. But even though they're already doing better, especially in Japan, they've already outsold the Xbox One 2 years into the Series generation than they did the whole Xbox One generation. It's probably going to take a little bit to establish their presence further. Next up, let's talk about the console refresh, the pro versions of the Series Series X and the Series S. Now, this is definitely something that's been on a lot of people's minds. I know when a lot of people first heard of Project Keystone, they were thinking, oh, is this a new Xbox? Is this a Series X Plus, a Series S Plus? What's going on? Of course, that wasn't what it was. And then TCL did that weird presentation when they were like, listen, in 2023, 2024, this is what the Xbox Series X Plus and the PS5 Pro are going to look like on our TVs. This is the specs that they're going to be dealing with. So going with the theme of this video, are we going to see a Pro version of the Xbox Series X or S in the next year, a year from now? And in my humble opinion, I'm going to say no. If I were to make a guess, I think they're going to announce it at the end of 2023, and then they're going to start rolling it out in 2024. So when I think of a console's life cycle, I think of an 8-year time period. That's how long the gap was between the release of the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One, and it was almost the same period of time between the release of the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X. It was 7 years. Now, for this generation, it might be as long as 10 years. You hear all this talk from developers saying, oh, we're trying to make a 10-year game. The halfway point between in a console's life cycle is 4 years. And that 4-year mark would mean 2024 for Xbox consoles. And that's when we usually see these, PlayStation 4 Slims, Xbox One S, the One X. I mean, for the One S, it was even sooner in that generation. That came out 3 years after the Xbox One launched. So yeah, we're getting up there. We're slowly creeping up to that time. Honestly, they're probably sitting on plans for these consoles as we speak, locked up in a secret safe with all these crazy traps to prevent anyone who tries to get them. I'm thinking like laser. But of course, talking about that too soon would honestly probably backfire on Microsoft. I can see the headlines now, obviously. Microsoft plans for new Pro version of the Series X when they can't even keep up with demand for the regular Series X. It'd just be a mess. There really is no need for them in the next year, I feel like, or at least until 2024, because game-wise, all of these games that have come out for Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S have been cross-generational. There really hasn't been a title that has shown off the true capabilities of either these Xbox Series consoles or the PS5. Starting in 2023, however, we are going to start seeing next-gen only games. Starfield is supposed to be one of those. Hell, even over on the PlayStation side, they've gone on record and said, hey, God of War Ragnarok, it's going to be the last cross-generational title that we put out. That's going to be it. No more games to the PS4. For first-party stuff. So 2023, we're going to start seeing some next-gen only titles. By 2024, I feel like the transition will finally be complete. Thus, sort of justifying the existence of a Pro version of these consoles. Now, what is this refresh going to look like? I feel like that's the question on everyone's mind. Are they going to make a Pro version of the Series X? Or are they going to make a Pro version of the Series S? Are they going to do both at the same time? See, last generation for the Xbox One, we started out with one regular old Xbox One. And then they were like, okay, we're going to make two different Pro versions, so the One S and the One X. But this generation, we started off with two Xboxes. So are they going to multiply into 4 different versions of the Pro version? I also feel like it'll be super tricky to make a Pro version of the Series S, because what is a beefier Series S if not just a Series X? Like, just buy a Series X at that point. Like, what is the middle ground between a Series S and a Series X? What is the S Plus? Me personally, I think it'd be really cool if they made a Series S that's not necessarily performance improved, but they slap a disk drive on that and they put some more storage in it. Maybe not as much as a Series X, but maybe get to the usable storage to say that's on a PS5, maybe? I feel like price-wise, that gets a little tricky though, because if you make it too cheap, like $350 or something like that, no one's ever going to buy a Series S ever again. They're just going to buy this new version of it. But if you make it like $400 and put it in line with the digital PS5 and you don't add any performance upgrades, well, it's like, okay, I could just get a PS5. Now for the Series X Pro, the Series X Plus, whatever they choose to name it, I don't know what kind of fancy stuff they're going to do from a tech perspective, because personally, that's not really my thing. But I'm just sitting here thinking, what is this thing going to look like? Traditional wisdom holds that a Pro version of of this console, whatever it is usually skinnier. It's a little bit slimmer. Now, how do you make an Xbox Series X skinnier without sacrificing one of my favorite parts about it, the ventilation? It runs really quietly. Next up, let's talk about controllers. This is probably an easy layup at this point, but over the next year, a year from now, from when this video is uploaded, we will get an Elite Series 3. Why do I say that? Well, a couple of insiders and leakers have said that we are gonna get a Series 3 at some point in the next year. Jez Corden has come out and said, hey, you might see an Elite Series 3 sometime by the end of 2022. That was in a little exchange he had on Twitter. And then other people are like, no, the Elite Series 3 is gonna come out in 2023 and it's gonna be tied to a major game release. But I feel like it would behoove, very fancy word, behoove Microsoft to release an Elite Series 3 sometime in the next year. So first of all, some people think that PlayStation is going to release a pro version of their DualSense controller. Those same people think that it might release relatively soon. If that's the case, that's a great opportunity for Microsoft to respond with their own new pro controller. And honestly, guys, it's just time. It just is. This guy right here has been around for a couple of years. I really feel like they need a new Pro controller, a new Elite Series to go along with these new Xboxes that are being put out. And on top of that, as time has gone on, there has been a lot of complaints about the build quality of this thing. People have been reporting all sorts of things, unresponsive buttons, or they get sticky, or they're just inoperable over a certain period of time. For me personally, this P1 panel on the back, it's not loaded up with anything right now, but I really have to push into it in order for it to register the output in-game. So an Elite Series 3 would be the perfect opportunity to put those questions behind about, is this controller worth it from a build quality standpoint? They do a really good job with the warranty on these controllers, but it is kind of a pain having to send it back and forth in order for it to get fixed. And next up, let's talk about Game Pass. So my prediction, bam, you ready for it? Xbox Game Pass will have at least 40 million subscribers a year from now. It may have more, but I'm saying at least 40 million subs. Now that might sound kind of crazy because the last time we heard about this was in January and they said that they had 25 million subscribers. But when you think about it, you're really taking into account almost 2 years of growth rather than a single year of growth, because you have to count all of this year and then everything that happens between now and next year. And for the rest of 2022, obviously the big story that everyone's running with is no Xbox Game Studios games are coming for the rest of 2022. Boo, Xbox sucks, Game Pass sucks. But I feel like despite that, Xbox is closing out the year pretty solidly with things like High on Life, Scorn, Plague Tale Requiem, hopefully the addition of Deathloop, Persona 5 Royal. But in 2023, this is when Game Pass is going to get a huge boost. And we're going to start to see how appealing these first-party games from Xbox are to subscribers, specifically Redfall and Starfield. Can the addition of those games drive subscriber growth in the way that Microsoft wants? All this stuff I kind of talked about in the first topic, but they are finally getting some big first-party games from Xbox Game Studios. They're going to add some pretty big third-party games as well. And they're potentially getting all of the Activision Blizzard library sometime in 2023. So I feel like the sheer volume of all those additions, that's gonna drive subscriber growth in a positive way. I mean, there's no way it can't, right? I mean, that's the way I'm thinking. Between all of that stuff, there's going to be something for someone, somewhere that they want to try. At least one game that they're gonna try. We may also get the Xbox Family Plan in 2023. Now, I don't know how subscribers are going to be counted when they're on the family plan. Like, is it just going to be the plan? That's the subscriber that they're going to count? Or are they going to count all 5 people on the plan? Because that's kind of like what they're saying the maximum cap is. If they count all the people on the family plan, whether it's 3, 5, whatever, I'm pretty sure they're going to count all of them. So that might inflate subscriber numbers a little bit. And I have a feeling that in 2023, we're gonna see cloud gaming expand to more avenues. Right now, that cloud gaming app, that Xbox Game Pass app, is only on Samsung TVs and it's only 2022 models. But in 2023, I feel like they're gonna start expanding to other platforms, other TVs, other smart devices, and maybe we'll even see Project Keystone, that little thing that you plug into your TV and then you get cloud gaming on demand. Obviously, you need Game Pass Ultimate to do anything with cloud gaming, so anyone who's trying it on their Samsung TV or other smart device, they're going to need to get Game Pass in order to access that and have that sweet cloud gaming technology. And all of this makes me think, what's going to happen with Xbox Live Gold? We've kind of seen signs that they're phasing out Xbox Live Gold in favor of Game Pass. I wouldn't be surprised in the next year if they just did away with Xbox Live Gold entirely. Obviously, you're still going to need to pay in order to play games online, but I wonder if they're just going to make it to where it's like a base tier of Xbox Game Pass in order to get those benefits, like the new PlayStation Plus. And depending on how many people they can convert from just Xbox Live Gold to Game Pass, I feel like it's going to go a long way in boosting those Game Pass numbers.